Well, welcome back. That was a short break. Got to jump into the next section here that has to do with unemployment. In earlier sections, we mentioned that in macroeconomics, you need to keep your eye on the ball. And we said the ball, the thing you have to keep your eye on, which is like the center of gravity of everything else, is this problem of unemployment. This problem of unemployment. And I mentioned before, it was understood that if we can solve the problem of unemployment, then everything else just kind of takes care of itself. So we need to define our terms and look at this a little bit more closely. How do we define unemployment? Generally, we'd say the number of people in the economy who are willing and able to work, but are not working. They are both willing and able to work. They're looking for work, but they're not able. Now, the key to that definition is who is and who is not considered to be part of that workforce. If you have an 8-year-old son or daughter, and they're looking for a job, and they can't find a job, do they qualify as being one of these people that are unemployed? No, not. How about great-great-grandma who is in a rest home, nursing home, and she'd really like to work. She really would like to work. But the things aren't working quite as well, and they didn't really let her keep her license, and so although she's willing and in her opinion able, if she doesn't have a job, is she part of the nation's unemployed? No, don't think so. Don't think so. When we're talking about people who are willing and able, realize we're also talking about people who are physically able, but they're just demoralized. They've just flat given up. They're called discouraged workers. Discouraged workers. And if a person is not actively putting in their resume, if they're not actively pursuing it, if they're just saying, oh, heck with it, I'm going fishing, I don't know, forget it all, I'm going to go on unemployment, whatever, then they are not part of the official unemployed group of people. So the technical definition gets a little bit more tricky than just the general definition. But there are basically 3 categories of unemployment. 3 categories of unemployment. In this first category, we're going to see that unemployment is not always a bad thing. And this first kind is called frictional unemployment. Now, what do we mean by that? Have you or someone you know ever decided, I just don't want to be in the lawn care business anymore. I want to go do something else. I think I want to go work in a factory because I just don't want to be out in the blazing hot sun all the time. I think I want to get a factory job, or I think I want to get any sort of indoor job. I think I want to lay carpet. I just don't want to do lawn care anymore. If they voluntarily quit their job and they're looking for another job, are they unemployed in the meantime? Do they have a job in the meantime? No, they don't have a job. So when they leave one job until they get another job, they are technically unemployed. Have you ever met anybody, and sometimes when I ask classes this, I get more personal, I say, have you ever been in a situation where you left a higher paying job and self-consciously and willingly took a lower paying job because you just couldn't stand the management and the people that you're working for in the first job? I mean, they were drive you crazy. You're much happier in a different job, in a different group of people, at a lower pay than you were at the job with a higher pay. And some people go, if that's not personally been there, they say, yeah, I know people who have done that. Yeah, that they're more satisfied at this job over here with this company at a lower pay than they were at the higher pay with that job there. Now, when they left the first job until they found their next job, were they unemployed? And the answer is yes. Now, was there anything wrong with the economy as a whole when somebody wanted to change vocations? Is there anything wrong with the economy because somebody wants to change locations? Was there anything wrong with the economy when they wanted to leave one job with one company at high pay to get another job at another company? Was there anything wrong with the economy? No. Take another example. Suppose that there's some young guy who his girlfriend lives down in Columbus, and rather than driving to Columbus all the time to see his girlfriend, he says, oh, heck with it, I'm just going to leave my job up here. I'm going to quit my job up there. I'm going to go down there, and I'm just going to look for a job down there. From the time they leave their job here and go down to Columbus, are they unemployed? Yeah, they're unemployed. But is there anything wrong with the economy because his girlfriend's down there and he wants to be down there closer to his girlfriend? Is there anything wrong with the economy about that? No. So in all those instances, that kind of frictional, just moving back and forth, of people just jockeying around, leaving one job, going into another, leaving one vocation, starting another vocation, leaving one skill, learning a new skill, and starting a new career. There's nothing wrong with any of that. In fact, that is a very healthy thing. Quite often we learn what we want to do by figuring out what we don't want to do. Well, I'm sure I don't want to do that, so I'm going to move on to greener pastures and something else. And that is called frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment. So it could be said that if we had 100% employment, that's not necessarily a good thing. The former USSR had 100% employment because it was against the law to be unemployed. They all had a job. But was that necessarily a good thing? If you're forced, you're assigned this job, and you're assigned that job, and you're assigned that job, and you don't really have any choice in the matter. It has been decided for you. Is that necessarily a good thing? And I would argue, and I think others would too, that's not necessarily a good thing. So let's take off from this 100%, let's take off 5%. Let's say at any point in time, 5 people out of 100 are dissatisfied and they're going to quit something, some job here, and they're going to go here for whatever reason. And so we would call full employment, if we get up to 95%, we would say, oh, well, that's as good as it gets. You know, we don't really want to get to 100% because that takes away people's freedom. So if we get up to 95%, we're going to stipulate 95% as being full employment. Now, the next kind of unemployment is called cyclical. Like bicycle. Cyclical unemployment. Now, there's two kinds of cyclical unemployment here. I'll just mention the first one. It's not really mentioned in the text, but the first one I'll just call cyclical in terms of a season cyclical. There are some jobs that are simply seasonal. I'm looking at a flat roof here. The only time you can work on flat roofs are during the summertime, because when it gets freezing cold out there, you can't do anything. You just don't have enough time. You just don't have enough time. I'm sorry. You got enough time, but you just don't have the weather. I'm getting signals back here and I'm losing my train of thought. So you pour concrete. You can't pour concrete in the middle of the winter because it's going to freeze, and if it freezes before it cures, then it's no good, falls apart. So if you're going to be a cement finisher or a roofer, there are certain months of the year that you just plan on being out of work. You just plan on being out of work. That's the first kind of cyclical. The next kind of cyclical is business cycle. Cyclical. Yeah, there are boom times in the economy and there are bust times of the economy. And during the boom times, there's a lot of work, but during the bust times, we're laid off. Now, from a Keynesian perspective, you can't do anything about the weather or the climate or some jobs. You better take your trucks and plow snow in the winter because you're not going to use your trucks to mow grass because grass doesn't grow underneath that much snow. But a Keynesian would say the ups and downs of the economy, if the government can create full employment, up to 95% or whatever number we stipulate, then the government should create full employment. If it can create full employment and even out these cycles, then it should create full employment. Now, the last one is called structural employment. And that's going to take us a little bit more time. So I think we're going to stop here, and we'll talk about the third kind of unemployment in the next session.